You're listening to the Project Ignite podcast,
where real digital entrepreneurs reveal their very best tips, tools, and strategies to help you ignite and grow your online business.
ProjectIgnite.com. Your digital business starts here.
Now, here's your host, Derek Gale.
Welcome back to the Project Ignite podcast. After a little hiatus through August while I was away enjoying my summer with my family up at Whistler, it's time to roll up our sleeves and get back into action with a podcast. As you guys know, it's designed to skip all the hype, skip all that BS, and bring you real actionable tips and strategies from really smart people that are actually doing stuff that's going to help you grow your business. So as you guys know, this is your host, Derek Gale, and today we're going to be diving deep into video development and creation. And, you know, with the rapid growth of video across just about every major marketing channel these days, if you haven't embraced video in your marketing stack, you're missing out, full stop. And today's guest is a video creation superhero or a villain. He can't quite decide, but the level of creativity contained within this his mild-mannered form must be a mutant power, or at least that's what he tells himself. He's a chief creative officer at I Am Media, and his job is to make sure that the video is used as a force for good, and the evil hordes of mediocrity are kept far, far away from the hearts and minds of innocent business owners and their customers. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest, who is a collaborator and advocate for his clients, helping them clearly and concisely, succinctly communicate their core values while providing targeted videos, assets, and digital campaigns to increase awareness and sales. I would like to welcome Alex Miner to the show. Alex, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, man. And I always get a kick out of when people actually read that bio. I tried to write it in such a way that people wouldn't actually want to read it.
I know. I was like, this is awesome, because I always get these bios that are like, you know, so-and-so did this and that.
Yeah,
I'm like, sweet. He's a video creation superhero or a villain. I'm like, I gotta read that. Like, that's one of the better. So you kind of sabotage yourself there, because I wanted to read it. So it was good. It was good. Now, just give me before we get into the meat and potatoes of this interview, give me your journey, right? How'd you get into video? What's your background? You know? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll try to give you the super short version, because I have a tendency to ramble.
That's all right.
But basically, so I've always been in some form of creation. Like, I'm a lifelong creator. Like, the first time I remember writing a story, second grade, writing poems, all those sorts of things. Got into music later, middle school and high school, especially in high school. That led me to want to be in the music industry, which led to me going to a school here in Orlando called Full Sail, which is like a big multimedia school that a lot of people might have heard of. From Full Sail, I wound up eventually working at a TV station doing audio, because that's what I went to Full Sail for. But from the TV station, I went into freelancing in the corporate event space. That's where I first picked up a camera. And corporate event videography is usually really, really boring, because it's usually point a camera at somebody on stage as they walk back and forth and talk for 30, 45 minutes, an hour on something that you don't care about. and I thought video was boring back then, but when I finally bought my own camera, like, okay, maybe I'll just do some YouTube videos or something. That's when like it got interesting, because once I could be the one deciding what to capture and how to capture, that's when, the creative juices started flowing. And I was like, I have to learn more about this. And I went down the rabbit hole, attended YouTube University, learned as much as I could, obsessed over as much as I could, to the point where I wasn't doing music anymore, because I was so deep into learning about video, and music had been something that I had been doing my whole life, pretty much. And yeah, I don't know how long it's been since I wrote a song, but somewhere along the line, video for business became a concept that I got into, and it made sense, because even in the video space, like, I thought at first that I wanted to do stuff like music videos, or I wanted to go into documentary work, because I love stories and I love finding out about people. And a lot of business video content is just that. It's like learning about people's stories, helping them tell those stories better. And so it really helped me scratch that itch where it's like I get to be creative, I get to meet people, I get to learn their stories, but I get to tell them in a way that's actually going to do something instead of me just going from festival to festival hoping to shop a project to a bigger company.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so all right, so let's dig into the video because, um, you said what to capture, how to capture, and I mean nowadays everybody fashions themselves to be a video or photographer, right? Like I mean, because everybody's walking around with these cameras, but I mean, if you go to YouTube, there's a lot of shitty videos on there.
But there's also a lot of great ones.
There are, and that's my question. I mean, you have a trained eye, right? So from the average business owner who's like, yeah, I want a video to communicate my message or a video ad for Facebook or YouTube or whatever, what makes a video engaging? What is the difference between, because you can take even a similar message, the same person, and do something amazing and something that's just, a snore fest, right? So
okay, so now we are starting to get into the meat and
oh
potatoes.
yeah, for sure.
And the first thing that you've got to remember, and it's funny because in a week or two I'm going to be doing a talk, and I just came up with the topic, and it's why your content sucks and how to fix it. And this is the first thing that you have to remember when it comes, and even if it's not video, if it's written content as well, or audio content, or whatever it is, no matter what kind of content you're creating, the first step in making sure that it doesn't suck is remembering that it's not for you.
Yes.
So the problem with the majority of content that we see and that we consider bad content is that it's not for us, the consumer. It's for the person who created it. And that's fine when you're like a musician or an artist and you're in your space and it's all about self-expression. But when you're doing things for business purposes, for advertising purposes, for marketing and branding purposes, that content's not for you. It's for the consumer. And so every decision that you make should be predicated upon the fact that what you're creating is for the digestion of somebody else. And when you keep those things in mind, you create differently.
Okay, so give me an example. How do you create differently?
So, all right. So one of the things that, and one of my mentors calls it product. I hate productizing things. Like I'm very anti when it comes to like basic business principles, like, which is terrible because
Totally,
I'm
but
trying
that's
to
the
run my
creative
own
artist side of you, right? Like that's
yes, I know. And
totally.
it makes things very, very difficult for me. Like one of my mentors is like, you have to productize everything, make products. People like products. They want to know, like, and I'm like, that goes against everything that's in my soul. But if I had to have a product, one of the things that I do a lot of is what we call a video business card. And most production companies or video creators, this would be your standard about us video.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with most companies about us videos are that it's about them. And that's the problem. When you tell your company's story, or when I tell your company's story, I do it through the lens of how do you serve? What impact do you make on folks' lives? How do you change people's lives and make it better? Because at the end of the day, as a consumer, that's all you care about when it comes to a company. How do they make your life easier? What will they do for you? What's in it for you as the consumer? Like, I don't care that you've been around for 50 years or 100 years. I don't care that it's and I mean, this is all, there's exceptions to the rule. Some people do care about those things, but at the end of the day, like the fact that the company was passed down from your great granddaddy to your daddy and now to you doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is, does your product or your service fill a need or solve a problem that I have and I want to make go away or I want to make better? If the answer is yes, then I'm interested in the story. If the answer is no, then why am I paying attention to you? Mm-hmm. Or if you can't even answer that question, or you can't show me the answer to that question, like I'm probably not going to be tuned in to whatever it is that you're saying. I'm going to get bored.
So, okay. So this is an interesting rabbit hole to go down, because what you're saying is, okay, you obviously need to appeal to the person who's watching the video in the shortest time possible, right?
Mhm.
And so, as you know, people online have the attention span of a goldfish, right? Like, they're easily distracted, and there's all these videos. What are you doing in your videos to hook people? Like right away, how do you grab people's attention? Because I mean, here's the thing: you hit play on YouTube, I can instantly see, okay, this video is 5 minutes to 10 minutes, right? Why am
Mhm.
I going to give my time to that? And they got to answer. I assume that you've got to answer that in the first,
10 seconds or less.
10 seconds or less, right? How do you
Yeah, and
do
usually it's
that?
really like 3 to 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So if you're creating videos, one of the worst things that you can do, and this is and you'll hear me contradict myself a lot because there's always an exception to the rule.
There is. I get that.
So,
Yeah.
so when it comes to creating video, one of the worst things that you can do is introduce yourself. Like, don't waste my time telling me your name. Don't waste my time. And the fact is that I say this is a contradiction because that's my standard greeting in my YouTube videos. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah,
Boy Alex
totally.
Minor.
Yeah.
But like, I take 2 seconds to say that, and then I'm immediately into the subject of the video.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that I even do that is because it's kind of like audio branding. It's
Sure.
because like even my kids make fun of me because they know when I do a YouTube video, the first thing coming out of my mouth is what's going on, world. It's your boy Alex Minor. But then I'm into the subject.
Yeah.
My son is merciless. He like teases me relentlessly about that. But a lot of people, when they're doing their content, whether it's on Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever, Twitter, if they're making videos, it's like, hi, I'm such and such, and I wanted to talk to you today about. I'm already tuned out. I'm bored.
Yeah.
Like you've already lost me. Like, even if the subject was something, the title of the video was something I was really interested in and really wanted to find out about. And I'm a video person. I watch a lot of stuff that most people won't stick around for.
Yeah.
So if I lose patience with it, you're really messed up.
Screwed.
So just get into your subject, get right to the point, or, say something interesting, or say something that's going to catch people off guard, because usually with the title of your video, people have already got an idea of what's going to be in the content.
Yeah.
Right. And so if they're coming into it already having an idea of what it is that they want to see, what it is they want to hear and learn, you need to give them that as soon as possible. If you waste time with a bunch of preamble in it, or, oh my God, I hate this, like 10, 15, 20-second video intros that, they're getting a pre-built After Effects intro from one of these sites and dropping their footage in it and thinking that makes their video more professional. Oh my God, I want to punch people in the face so many times when I see a lot of these things. Not that they don't look good, but it's like, you're wasting my time. Why do I need 20 seconds of video montage when there's a subject that I want to get to?
And that's interesting. So here's and I know this is the challenge, and it's the same reason you say your name at the beginning of every video is people want to brand themselves, right? They want to embed themselves.
Right.
So how do you
But
accomplish
you
that?
do that after you get to the point. So it's like, if you're going to start this video, especially, I guess we're talking about YouTube right now, like as soon as the video starts, tell people what they're going to get in the video.
Yeah.
And tell them, and if the video is like 5 reasons that you need to do this to grow your business, tell them that. And then tell them why they need to stick around till the end of the video. Because usually a lot of YouTubers, they're like, give a bonus tip or something, or, tell you about something else that's going on. Be like, make sure to stick around to the end of the video because we're going to do this, da, 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 da. And then you can drop your short 10 seconds or less visual branding.
Okay. All
like
right.
Anything over 10 seconds, I want to punch you.
Okay. All right. That's the Alex will punch you time limit. All right. So as we walk through this, so get to the point right away. Tell them what they're going to get. Seed something that they're going to get later on to try and convince them to watch. And then you can drop in super short branding. So now we get into the heart of a video, right? And video is one of those things that even when I get hooked, lots of times people lose me. There's no engagement.
Because they talk too much.
Okay, so tell me about that. What makes a video, and this is a guy coming from a guy who talks too much. So what makes a video work?
Being ruthless with yourself. When it comes to especially like informational videos, educational videos, content that's supposed to like help you build your authority, like I said, you got to get to the point. You got to be quick because people don't have patience. People overvalue their time. And not saying that time is never valuable, but people really overvalue their time. Like, oh my God, this video is 7 minutes. Like, in the grand scheme of things, what is really going to change if you spend 7 minutes watching this video, other than you gaining some positive knowledge from it? You know, like if if the knowledge isn't valuable to you, or is, you know, what is going to go disastrously wrong from you having spent that 7 minutes?
Yeah.
You know, so people place ungodly amount of value on their time, but because of that, you have to cater to that behavior. So keep it short, keep it to the point, realize that shorter is better, at least in the beginning. Once you've really developed your style, once you really know how to deliver on camera, you can get into longer content. But when you're starting, keep it short, keep it straight to the point, get in, get out, and don't think that you have to teach them all the rocket science. One problem that a lot of subject matter experts have is when they talk about their area of expertise, is they think that they have to go down the rabbit hole. The majority of the people can get value from what to you is the basics.
Right.
So like for right now, we're discussing this topic. I'm not going into codecs and video processing and, you know, frame rates and exposure and the exposure triangle and all these technical things. You don't need that. You need basic tips on how to deliver content better and not bore people to death. So for me, this is very surface level stuff.
Totally.
Because there's a whole depth of technical knowledge and all this stuff that I could get into, but you'd be bored.
Sure.
And I don't want to do that. And so start with the basics. The people who need more than the basics will usually send you questions or keep doing research on their own, or they'll become a client.
Sure.
Because they'll figure out that there's so much to the subject that they don't want to do it and they'd rather just pay somebody for it.
So,
and you also got to realize that the majority of people do not fit in that last bucket.
Yeah. So when you're recording videos, for example, for yourself, do you script yourself?
Sometimes. If I'm doing longer content, especially for YouTube, I will script myself, because otherwise I drive myself nuts doing tons of takes and piecing it together. And usually when I'm going back and looking at the video, it's like, oh, those first couple of takes were actually really good.
Yeah.
So even me, somebody who's been on video significantly for like the last 4 or 5 years, I get self-conscious. I do tons of takes sometimes, which is the reason why I also script sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it cuts down my production for, even though it takes time to write those scripts, when it comes to actually getting in front of the camera, I'll spend 10, 12 minutes in front of the camera instead of 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so do you use a teleprompter for that? Obviously, I guess for
sometimes I don't like to. What I usually do, and this is because I'm a filmmaker and I know these tricks and techniques. In my YouTube content, especially, I'd use a lot of B-roll, which is a film term for supplementary footage. You know, basically when you're watching like an interview or something on TV and they put footage or a news story and they're like putting footage over the person speaking that like gives context to what they're talking about, that's called B-roll. And so when I write my scripts, I write with that in mind. So I only want to be on camera for very short periods of time, like little chunks of 2 or 3 sentences that I know I can kind of just quickly memorize and deliver. And then the rest of it, I cover up with B-roll and I read direct from the script. So I don't usually need to do a teleprompter, because the parts that I actually have to remember on camera, I keep super short.
Interesting. So in a, let's say a 5-minute video, how much of that are you actually on camera versus B-roll?
If I'm trying to make my life easy, maybe a minute, maybe a minute and a half, and that's broken up.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Now that being said, when you're working with clients and people that aren't you, getting them to memorize scripts has got to be difficult, right? So do you work with teleprompters with your clients? And if you do,
Of course.
How do you keep it authentic and not scripted?
Well, that's why I don't like teleprompters for clients. I like most people are not. And that's why with a lot of the videos that I do for clients, I don't use scripts. I don't use teleprompters. A lot of times I'm taking an interview based approach because if I can just have a conversation with somebody like we're having, it yields more organic results. They don't feel stiff. They don't feel fake because they're having a real conversation. And that goes back to me enjoying that whole documentary filmmaking thing. So that's part of my style is like, I like working with clients in a interview capacity because I feel I get more genuine answers. I feel like, I get to show more of the real them on camera, which to me, the way my mind works and the way that I approach branding and think about branding will be easier for them to get connected with the type of clients, customers, whatever you want to call them, that they're looking for, because you're really going to get to see their genuine vibe, which is really hard to do when scripting somebody, unless like you either really have a feel for who they are as a person, or you get them to write the script and they're good at writing scripts, which most people are not.
Yeah. And even if it's written, there's so often you can tell when somebody's on a teleprompter reading, and it just
but there are degrees, there are levels to it. Like when I read a teleprompter, it's totally different from when most of my clients read a teleprompter, because I've been doing this. Like I see myself on video a ton. I know how I want to act. I know my mannerisms. I know like the little things. I know how to like modulate my voice and put inflections in there to keep it more lively. And sure, you'll probably know when I'm on a teleprompter, but it won't feel like I'm on a teleprompter so much.
Yeah. And that's, I guess that's where I see a lot of the videos fall down these days is they feel scripted. They don't feel organic. They don't feel authentic, and so the other thing I wanted to dig in with you, because I watched some of your videos on your site and stuff, and they are authentic. They are, you feel a connection there, right? And so, when you're taking somebody that's not you, that's not comfortable being on camera, what are the different things you can add to a video? How do you create that emotional engagement and investment that some videos just are able to extract from their viewers versus the ones that you just got the talking head and it's just, you don't get any connection? What are your secrets?
It's really getting it. I try not to work with anybody who I can't become a cheerleader for. So like when I take on a client and I start working with them, if I'm going to be actually producing the content, because there are some clients that, just need video editing. And I'm like, okay, fine. Or things like that, like mechanical things, utilitarian things. But when I'm actually helping create the content, it's my job, or the way that I approach creating, to really get to know you, to really get to know your business, and to be able to be excited about it. Like if I can't get excited about it, I'm not going to make exciting content. So a lot of the clients that I have, I become really passionate about their businesses. Like their stories matter to me, which is why I can tell them so well. And why when I'm doing this interview-based approach and sitting down with them, I'm able to ask the right questions to get the types of answers that people are looking for. Because also, I'm not just asking them questions to ask questions. I'm trying to approach it like, if I was a customer, if I was a client or a potential client, because I fully believe nobody's a client or a customer until they actually give you money. If I'm one of those folks, what would I wonder about? Like, if I don't know anything about their business, and usually I don't when I first meet them, what questions would I have? What questions do I have? Because a lot of times I'm genuinely curious. I have a couple clients that are financial or wealth managers, like I know nothing about that space. So when sitting down with them, I'm intensely curious about it. I might be signing up next week a guy who does flooring. Like I know nothing about construction. So I'm going to have tons and tons of questions to ask him. And it just runs, that curiosity is probably the biggest asset that I have other than my technical skills.
And so it's getting in there and authentically interviewing them and pulling that information out of them in a way that doesn't feel scripted. To the
right. And I mean, even if you're, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but and this is just another thing that I want to put out there for people. Like, so even if you're a business owner and you're trying to create your own content, if you don't have a me around, grab a friend. Have a conversation with them, hop on Zoom, do something like we're doing right now. I've created tons of content for clients from Zoom calls or from podcast interviews, because those are opportunities where people speak very freely and very candidly about the things that they're doing, about the things that are going on in their business, about their whys, and those sorts of things. That's valuable content, as long as when you're producing the final piece, you're taking the stuff that really speaks to the concerns and the issues and the pain points that your potential clients have.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's talk music for a second, because you obviously come from an audio background. Music can be used very effectively or very poorly. How often are you using music to?
As often as I can.
As often as you can. Okay, so when you're trying to figure out music and the right music, how do you go about that?
I think about, what emotion do I want someone to feel? Because that's the thing. Like, people don't realize, and that's I guess that's another superpower or whatever that I have coming from my background when it comes to producing content for my clients. Because I put music in a lot of content that a lot of people wouldn't think to put music in. Even like micro content that I'm producing for some of my clients. Like I got a client, he runs a recruiting firm, and they specifically recruit for the mortgage banking industry. And so we did a bunch of content for them last month, where every piece of content had, well, except for this last one I did, had music behind it, because I was trying to evoke a mood. So even though they're talking about something that for a lot of people would be boring, that music in the background can sometimes subtly shift your mood and perception of what it is that you're watching. Like, I'll give you an example. I did a video business card, AKA brand story, for a friend of mine up in Maryland a few years ago. His name is, dang, I'm a bad friend. I'm forgetting his real name right now. He's a rapper. He goes by the name Substantial, but he has a company, him and his wife, a branding and marketing agency called Substantial Art and Music. And I did their video business card, and I wanted to use some of his music as the background. And so I chose this one piece that was really upbeat, really energetic, because I wanted people to be excited when they watched his video. I wanted them to get into it, to be like tuned in to him and his wife and what they're talking about. And when I sent them the video, they were like, "Hey, we love the video, but we really wanted to use this instrumental over here. Could you put that in?" And it was like a really laid back, jazzy piece of music. And if you know Stanley Robinson, that's his real name.
There you go.
If you know Stan, what the music he told me to put in there made perfect sense for him.
Yeah.
Because he's exactly like, that's his vibe. I got it. I understood exactly why he put it in there. And I was like, okay, I'll do this, but yeah, tell me what you think. And so I put the music in, I synced it up, I made it work with the edit. And like a day later, he came back like, "Yeah, put the music back." Because even though that laid back, jazzy thing that fits his personality to a T, it brought the energy of the piece way down. And somebody who was watching just wasn't going to get as excited about the company and what's going on with it and what they're doing as they would with the more upbeat, vibrant, excited piece. Like, because from the second the music started, you're like, ding, 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 and you're like, okay, what's about to happen?
Yeah.
And then it goes into the interview. But when you start with that jazz, you're like, okay, yeah, okay, this is cool. So it really can change your perception of a piece of content.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's why I find music a fascinating uh mechanism for engagement and the human brain, just how it can engage and set moods and do all these amazing things. And I think it's underutilized a lot. Now, just one last question for you as we start to wrap up here. You're getting all these B-rolls and music and stuff. Where any recommendations on where people can find this stuff? Any of your favorite sources?
Yeah, there's licensing sites. Like, the internet is a wonderful thing,
Yes.
because back in the day, licensing music, licensing footage was insanely expensive.
Mhm.
And actually, if you're licensing it piece by piece, it still can be insanely expensive. I'm talking about a one or a 10 15-second clip of b-roll of, I don't know, a polar bear on its butt could cost you hundreds of dollars, if you're getting it from a certain source. But now there are sites that are offering very economical plans where you can license tons and tons of clips. Like, they'll say, oh, you get access to over 1 million assets. Two of my favorites, one for music that I really like, is Epidemic Sound. And then another one that I use for a lot of my client work is called ArtGrid.
ArtGrid.
Yeah. If you're looking for B-roll, supplemental footage, Adobe After Effects templates, stock graphics, those sorts of things, one of the biggest ones right now is called Storyblocks.
Yeah.
If you watch any YouTube videos by video creators, you'll probably hear a sponsorship read by Storyblocks. They're everywhere.
They are. Yeah, I'm subscribed to them. I mean, everybody is now. They've done a fantastic job of marketing themselves.
Yeah. And see, that's how content marketing works.
Absolutely.
Because they put themselves in everybody and their mama's content.
Yes, they do. They do. Absolutely. All right. Well, before we wrap up, Alex, where can people connect with you, learn more about you, potentially hire you to help them with their videos?
Okay, well, I got to get back in the saddle on this. LinkedIn is one of my passions. And I've been MIA for like the last 4 months because the client work had just piled up and I've had to dig my way out. But I'm planning to make my triumphant return to LinkedIn, and you can find me there. And you could also find me on YouTube. Search Alex Miner. I have a YouTube channel where mostly I talk about camera gear, but I'm trying to inject a little bit more business content in there. And so trying to make my triumphant return there, because I've been in MIA most of this year because the client work has been stacking up. And then you can also find me on the web. The company's called I Am Media. That's EYEAMMEDIA. So IamMedia.com. And then I Am Media on Instagram and Facebook and those sorts of things.
Okay. One more bonus question for you here, because you said LinkedIn's a bit of a passion of yours. Obviously, if you're in B2B and it makes sense for you to be on LinkedIn, you get a lot of clients there. Do you use video on LinkedIn?
Oh, me?
Obviously you do.
Come on, like, I'm the video guy.
It's funny. I mean, LinkedIn is one of those ones that I personally don't. I use it, but not like you would, because I'm not as B2B as you are, right?
Right.
And so, how are you using video on LinkedIn? Where do you use it?
Everywhere I can.
Everywhere.
So LinkedIn has transformed over the last several years, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much since Microsoft took over.
Yeah.
You'll hear a lot of lifelong LinkedIners be like, it's turning into Facebook, and shut up, go away. But it's become a content and community platform.
Yeah.
And content, which is what we've been talking about this entire time, it's very, very powerful there for building relationships, for building your network, and for marketing to people. There are people who make their entire livings off of LinkedIn. I am not one of them. I have gotten a few very good clients off of LinkedIn. But part of the reason is I don't really sell on LinkedIn. I'm mostly there for the community aspect of it and the authority building aspect of it. But you can definitely sell and make a lot of money on LinkedIn. You just have to go about it subtly.
Subtly, yes. Not as
And so I post videos just leaning into my expertise, tips on creating videos, tips on content in general, tips on LinkedIn, even tips about other platforms. Like when Clubhouse was really making a buzz, I did a video on LinkedIn about Clubhouse and it actually did really well for me. I did a video, one of my best performing video ever, I think, was a video about hashtag strategy on LinkedIn, because no one really understood what to do with hashtags on LinkedIn. They still don't really understand what to do with hashtags on LinkedIn. And there are a lot of LinkedIn experts who will want to fight me about my opinions on hashtags on LinkedIn, because bottom line is they don't really do all that much. Like, if you don't have a hashtag strategy, your life is not over. If you do have one, okay, do it. It might get you a few extra views, but it's not a be all end all like Instagram.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Alex, thank you for being here and just sharing your knowledge. And I appreciate you and everything you contributed.
Hey, that's what I'm here for. I love doing these things.
Awesome. And guys, now it's your turn. As you guys always know, none of this stuff will make a difference in your business and life if you just listen to the podcast and then go away and do nothing with it. So now it's your turn to actually take something you learned here and go have a look at your videos. If you're not doing videos, first of all, get off your ass, start doing videos. It is the future. It's everywhere. You got to do it. But there's some really practical tips and strategies that we discussed here that Alex shared on how to make your videos more engaging, more effective. Go have a look at the videos that you have out there. And as he said, be ruthless with yourself. How do you cut them down? How do you make them more engaging? How do you hook more people into it? How do you create more emotion in that? And as always, if you learned something, if you like what you heard, please leave us a rating review on your favorite podcast platform, wherever you happen to get your podcasts. And on that note, this episode's a wrap. And we'll see you guys again next week. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to another info-packed episode of the Project Ignite podcast with Derek Gale.
Any links mentioned, along with an entire transcript of this episode, can be found at projectignite.com/podcast.
And to make sure you never miss another episode, go to iTunes or SoundCloud now and subscribe.